Imagine you move from a place where you lived all your life. Imagine you move and you leave all your children and wife. Starting all over again, but no one you know is around. Well, they didn't have to imagine. They built it up from the ground. How does it sound? Not easy because it isn't. Could have praised them, but it didn't. But the Ray Bond, that's a winner. And they ran straight to the finish. You get to know them up close and personal. Wait, just give me a minute. Welcome to the front row. Can I get a drum roll? Intentional. We may be immigrants, but we are still intentional. We are dependable. It's just that set the bar, but still the best of all. We are intentional.
Thank you for tuning in to the Intentional Immigrants podcast. I'm your host, Yolanda Jack, and today we're going to be discussing immigrants managing credit successfully. And this is especially related to management of credit cards and credit scores. But just before we get into the discussion for today, just reminding you, the Intentional Immigrants podcast and channel can be found on Podbean, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, and YouTube. We also have a website. The website is www.intentionalimmigrants.com. So let's get into business. It's very easy to get into credit card debt. Extremely easy. It doesn't take much effort. In fact, it doesn't take any effort at all. Because you see, there are no minimum amount required to make a transaction. What do I mean by that? So for instance, if you are in the store and you are purchasing an item, say you go to the pharmacy and you're purchasing an item and the item costs $2. You can use your credit card to pay for that item. As such, it's very, very, very easy to fall into credit card debt because it's easy for you to make a transaction. It's also very easy for you to charge it on your card. So you hear of people saying, oh, I owe $10,000 in credit card debt, and you'd be wondering, what is it that they bought that they're in that they owe that amount? But it doesn't take much. It just takes consistently buying small things, especially things that are not needed, and just charging it to your card. So that's the first thing I want you to be aware of as new immigrants coming in. The second thing I want you to be aware of is ensure that you are living within your means. So don't try to, if you can't afford to buy something cash, and if you are putting it on your credit card, then you need to pay your credit card off in full. If you're not able to pay your credit card off in full, then that item will need to wait until you're able to acquire it without it being a headache to you. The third thing I want you to be aware of is to spend just what you are able to pay. So do not buy items that you know you will not be able to pay off. When you get your statement, you won't be able to pay it off. So pay your credit card off in full, spend what you're able to afford, and that means living within your means, of course. The fourth thing I want you to be aware of is not to take an advance on your credit card. So what do I mean by that? An advance is when you go to the machine, you go to the ATM machine, and you take cash, use your credit card, and you're able to get cash from your credit card. The interest rate for advances is much higher than that if you were to use the credit card normally. And lastly, we want to look at managing your credit score. So these transactions that you do with your credit card they impact your credit score. So if you're able to pay your credit card off in full, and you pay it on time in full, then it will allow you to have a higher, or it will contribute towards you having a higher credit score. The credit score is a 3-digit number that goes between 300 to 900. This is important because it allows lenders, such as banks, to determine whether or not you can get a loan. Banks and other lending agencies, of course, it helps them to determine whether or not you can get a loan, what type of loan you are eligible for. It tells them how long the repayment period for that loan should be. And more importantly, it also tells the interest rate that they can give you that loan at. If you have so your loan repayment period, your interest rate will be higher than if you have a high credit score. So those are some of the things I want you to think about as you come. Oh, okay. No, I'm not done yet. One last thing. You don't need a whole lot of credit cards. So I've heard of stories of people having 5, 6, 7, or even 8 credit cards. There's no need for that. Some persons have credit cards from stores. So say, for instance, you have a Walmart credit card. You may have a credit card from the Brick. What happens is that all those credit cards and all the available credit limits that these cards afford you are calculated in your credit score. Let me explain a little bit more. So say you have a credit card for Walmart, that's for, say, $5,000. Say you have another credit card for the Brick, that's another $5,000. So far we are at $10,000. And then you have 3 credit cards from financial institutions. Let's name 3 banks. So say you have a credit card from BNS, and that one is at, say, $3,000. So far we're at $13,000 at this point. And you have one from RBC for $10,000. That is 13 and 10, that's 23. And say you have one from TD Bank, that's $28,000 in total. TD Bank's card is at $5,000. So that's the credit limit. Credit limit means that's the maximum amount that you are able to spend. So you're at $28,000 right now with your credit limits. So say you're not using the cards from the Brick and from Walmart, you don't owe anything on them, you just have the card. In the calculation, the full calculation for your credit score is going to bear into or take into consideration all those credit cards and their available limits, and it's going to impact your final credit score. Because even though you haven't used the cards in months, in years, possibly, when they're calculating, they're going to say, okay, this person has $28,000 that they can spend. So even though you're not spending anything and you're not using the cards, they are saying, if you get up tomorrow morning and you decide that you want to spend some money, they don't know if you have spent or have a recent transaction on the card. So as such, they're going to say you have $28,000 available to you. And that is going to impact your credit score. So manage your credit score wisely, manage your finances wisely, become financially literate. And that's the only way you will have financial freedom. All right, so that's my tidbits for today. Thank you to Xavier Anderson for providing music. As always, I'm your host, Yolanda Jack, reminding you, he who watches the wind will not sow. He who watches the clouds will not reap. Ecclesiastes 11 and verse 4. You were born for greatness. Step out into your greatness so that mankind can benefit from you being here. So long, until next time.
Intentional. We may be immigrants, but we are still intentional. We are dependable, it's just that set the bar, but still the best of all, we are intentional.